Good afternoon. I would like to, I would like to publicly say Dr. Donna and the team, but I also want to thank my colleagues from Medgar College, Dean Blair, for continuing this tradition that's now 10 years old, and Dr. Blackman, I keep wanting to quote him, Dean Blackman, Dr. Blackman for also participating. This is truly very important to me. Not only the work, but continuing the collaboration. And you will hear in my talk today how important worldwide collaboration is across disciplines, across industries. And let me get started because I got a lot to do. So let's get started. I'm going to talk a little bit about entrepreneurial leadership for sustainable innovation. At Babson College, as you know, one of the leading academic institutions for entrepreneurship, we have literally been waiting years, and I can count two that I know of, for the work to come out on entrepreneurial leadership. And they were waiting until they got a published paper. And that just happened in January. So I'm going to share some of that work in entrepreneurial leadership. I also am going to share, and that's the east side of this presentation. On the west side at Claremont University, they have been doing some work with deep research, OAI, and the applications. So while Babson is busy building frameworks on entrepreneurial leadership, on the west side at Stanford and some of the other places at Claremont, they are busy looking at the applications. And I think this is a very good place where the two should meet. You need the theory, but theory without application is just too abstract for most of us. And so I'll give you some specific case studies out of the new work that was published February of 25 by Robert Claremont of Claremont University. So if we can click it and get it started. So I can talk to you in terms of an executive summary about the relationship, the framework, the visual model, and the strategic insights. But in working with OAI deep research, I actually like to do text to video of the work that I do. And I've been doing it since last year. And I think if you click it, if we have it down, you will hear it. Click again.
In a time of rapid change, uncertainty, and accelerating technology, one truth remains. Leadership is no longer about control, it's about connection. It's not enough to lead projects. We must lead people, with empathy, with purpose, and with shared intelligence. Entrepreneurial leadership for sustainable innovation requires more than strategy. It requires psychological safety, intrinsic motivation, and the courage to collaborate. Not just with each other, but with the very tools shaping our future. Grounded in self-determination theory and empowered by co-intelligent systems, we are not outsourcing our thinking, we are amplifying our ability to think together. As Nelson Mandela said, education is the most powerful weapon we can use to change the world. Let's wield it wisely and together.
Okay. So this is where the technology
in a time of
yes, hold it there. This is where the technology is going. What we're saying is it's not just the technology by itself, but it's the human interaction with the technology evolving to a better solution than either one of them could come to by themselves. So first, let's talk about the work that Taylor et al. Is coming out of Babson College.
In a time,
yes, here we are. So in that work, they talk about entrepreneurial leadership, and it's the form of leadership that emphasizes agility, innovation, the creation of value, allowing leaders to navigate uncertain landscapes while motivating their teams towards shared goals, not just goals that come down, top down, in the autocratic style that some systems used to do, but how do we share those goals? And what they focus on is the relationship between the leaders, go back for me, please, the relationship between the leaders and the followers, and how they build trust together and work together and actually produce a better product than just having the leader tell the followers what to do. And on the other piece of it is some of my work with some of the colleagues that I'm working with now, we have to do multi-generational. It's not just students for the sake of students, and we are the faculty members, but how do we work with them and how do they help us with their work? And some of the work that I've been doing, one of the colleagues that I have is actually in another generation. And what's important to them is sustainability. It's not just good enough to build so that we get profits and fun, but they're actually interested in how are we saving the earth, how are we managing our resources. You can bring emerging technologies and AI and use all the resources, but what is the consequences to future generations? And that's some of the work that they're looking at. But the work that really gets me going is the work on co-intelligence. It's not just artificial intelligence. It talks about how the AI is able to improve and evolve as we and contribute and participate. So it's not just AI in the black box, but how does it learn and how does it help us learn and how does it help us produce better products and projects. Okay, so back to the Babson model, they talk about control versus empowerment. So the new workforce, and I heard we was doing a presentation early on the workforce. How are we developing that workforce? Are we looking to empower them so that they're not afraid to give innovative solutions? And stability versus agility. We need them to be creative. We need them to be able to move. We need them to be able to think out of the box. So not just the stable old model. And answers versus inquiry. We need to start asking the right questions. Not just looking for answers, but what are the right questions to be answered? Next slide, please. Okay, so the core definition they give it there, leadership grounded in emotion. And a lot of the theory part is interesting, but I heard the earlier presentation talking about the relevance of the work that we do in the academy. So as long as it's abstract, it's harder for the other folks to recognize it. So we need to make it real. So let's get past, let's get past this quickly. I will provide you resources and citations for you so you can go back and look into it deeper. But the Taylor et al. Model that came out of Babson delineates entrepreneurial leadership as a blend of innovation, strategic vision, and the capacity to inspire others to achieve collective goals. It's not just what we want to do as leaders, but how do we inspire and motivate the team, the followers, to help develop where the whole organization should go. And they talk, go back, please. They talk a lot about emotional and social competence, EQ, emotional intelligence and social competence, and then the entrepreneurial mindset. What they tried to do is take the entrepreneurial mindset, not solely in the literature of entrepreneurship, but to step into the world of leadership and let it be as a model for how leaders should evolve and not just in the entrepreneurial venture. And everything, as I go through the case studies that we have, everything is relationship centered in leadership. This leadership style prioritizes the relationship networks. I heard someone doing a presentation and another person said, let's collaborate. That is what it's talking about, not us working in our silos, in our countries, in our disciplines, but how can we collaborate across barriers, across boundaries. Next slide, please. Okay. Self-determination theory and benefits. This is a big piece of the work that they've done. They talk about the need for the workers to feel autonomy and competence and to get that upskilling that they need to participate in this new AI and emerging technology. AI is just the beginning. They got technologies on the board now that's going to be just as advanced as when generative AI came to us. And added benefits. This is key. People don't want, at least some of the younger generation, they don't want to work just for the sake of working. They want to know that they are making a meaningful contribution, and that includes the purpose to them working. And so this is a piece that they've added. And then the conditions for innovation, when these psychological needs are met, we get better and improved output. Next slide, please. Okay, so this is the conceptual model. The inputs is emotional and social competence, satisfy psychological needs. I feel like I'm doing something good. Innovation outcomes yield psychological safety. So you see this spreads across multiple disciplines outside of just the business world that we normally talk about. Okay, next slide. Okay, so now I'm going to get to the part that I really like to talk about. I'm a practitioner from the heart, always have been. And so the theory is good, but where can we find evidence that it could be applied? And that's why I like the work of Robert Children over at Claremont Graduate School. He actually developed a piece of work, and that's the February 25 citation that I gave you, where he co-authored with open AI research, a volume of work on the importance of evolving, that's us evolving with with the technology, not just trying to do it saying that this is what we're doing by ourselves, but using the machines to leverage the humanity. It's the humanity that's so important. That's what you heard earlier. Their focus wasn't on the technology, the focus is on humanity. But how do you leverage humanity with the technology? Okay, so let's give the examples. In the UK, they understand that they don't have the engineers now in the workforce to really leverage where AI is going. So in 2018, they supported, they developed a new university. It didn't have the burdens that we have and the barriers that we have. In 2021, they launched their first cohort. There are no exams. The students work year-round, 3 years. They do project-based work. It's peer-to-peer engagement. It is not the stage on the stage. It is mostly experiential, and they work very closely to solve industry problems. And so they are not learning how to code, they are learning how to co-create with industry the new technology that's coming. And that is what they say they need to be competitive in the marketplace. They don't need students who come out and can't relate to what has been going on in the industry. And so in the UK, that is the route that they've gone, and they have found some success with industry, because industry sometimes complains that we are not producing the workforce that they need to do what they need to do. And so they are partnering with them. Again, the collaboration, again, the peer-led training. When you look at the model that they're using, they focus on the students working with students and coming up with the solutions to the existing problems and trying to solve them. So that's where their focus is. And they're using the technology that we have, but the important thing is as they go along, they're creating new technology. So when they come out, it wouldn't be new to them. They would have helped develop it. They would understand it. So that's where the UK is. That's one model in the UK. Now, here at home at Georgia State University, they had a very interesting, challenging problem that many of us have. I gotta watch my time, because you know I get wrapped up on this. Oh yeah, okay, I got a little more time. So they had problems with retention in some of the hardest classes that the students fill out of in the first year. Some of you don't have that problem, do you? Like me. So how did they solve it? They didn't just go to the technology. They looked at the data of individual students. Where is your failure point? What is it that you don't understand? And iteratively, the system worked with individual students that go from failures to how do they become successful in those subjects. And they found that there was an increase in what? Retention. Why? Because who wants to flunk out their students? No one wants to flunk out their students, but how do you reach them? How do you get to them? Everybody doesn't think the same. Everybody isn't the same. So how do you get? You look at them as people, as persons. It's expensive if we have to try to do a faculty by faculty to look at student by student. But if we use the system and the data and see the patterns, we can come out with solutions that can help those individual students, get them to be retained and get them to the workforce as they need to be. So that's okay. This is a good one. University of Hong Kong. When AI came out, the students would say, "Oh, students are going to cheat. We don't want this around." And the administration didn't ban AI. What it did is they stood up and said, "Okay, you students, figure out what are the appropriate guidelines that we should use to have AI so you would stay competitive, because, oh, by the way, everybody else is going to be using it. So you need to figure out what are the guidelines we need to have." So instead of top-down, administration said, "This is what you can do, this is what you can't." The students came together, and the students shift from the traditional hierarchical structure to redesign their own learning experience, enhancing engagement and innovation. So when the students finished and said, "These are the guidelines," because they came up with it themselves for their own learning experience. They want to learn, they want to be a part of it, but they don't want to feel like they're cheating. And so in this case, they were able to do more AI because the students saw the use and the value, and the administration was able to help. Now, this is one of the most powerful cases in terms of entrepreneurship, because most of them you see the trend is in experiential learning. It is not on the stage. It stands for what they have. I got 3 minutes. Okay. All right, y'all, get ready. We finna push it up. At Stanford, what they did was they said, all right, we want to create entrepreneurs for in technology and innovation. So they do all kinds of hackathons. They do all kinds of hands-on, helping to build they are actually helping to build AI technology as well. So they're not just sitting and waiting back for OpenAI to come out with it. They are building applications in the technology. Next slide, please. And so what are the outcomes? So psychological needs are met, psychological safety, cognitive flexibility, sustainable innovation. This is not usually the normal language that business people use, but this is how we get people to do better work. Next slide. Okay, so how do we create environments where autonomy and belonging thrive? That's a question. What kind of leadership nurtures sustainable, not just scalable innovations? Where do our policies encourage or limit shared intelligence? Next slide. Okay, so leaders, we need to support autonomy. Everybody doesn't need to do the same thing. Everybody doesn't think the same thing. So if you treat everybody the same, right, like those students, then you'll have more of a failure rate than if you look at the individual. Lead with sustainability, long-term thinking and ethical decisions, because for it to really be worthwhile, we need to do it over the longer haul. And again, I mentioned emotional intelligence and social intelligence and co-design innovation. Invite your stakeholders, if they're students, if they're faculty, if they're administrators, to co-create solutions rather than impose. I got 2 minutes. Next slide. All right, so I'm down to Mandela. All of you know Mandela, one of the great leaders of our time, said education is the most powerful weapon to what? Come on.
Yeah.
To change the world. It's not to change the world. And so we as educators, we're not just dealing with the lives of our students. We're dealing with changing futures. Next slide. So what is the call to action? I'm down to my last slide. Lead with purpose, innovate with trust, shaping systems of belonging, and collaborate. One country doesn't have all the answers, one discipline doesn't have all the answers, and certainly one person doesn't have all the answers. Next slide. These are my 2 slides that I suggest if you want more on the information about the Babson model. It just came out in January in this journal. It's 30 pages long. It's an easy read. And his book is 400 pages. It's online. It's free. But the relevant work to us is only 80 pages. And it talks really about how man and machine can work better together, not in the future, but right now. I think that's close. Come on, next slide. Yes, that's it. Collaboration can change our world. Thank you.
Yes.
Hello. Fascinating. So insightful. I'm sure that we can take just 2 questions, please, if you don't mind. Just 2. If anyone got any questions, please.
Yes. So,
Yes, I guess his hand was up.
Yes. This short, you have 2 questions, yes.
Thank you, Prof. Very, very excited. I was imagining how do we collaborate? I'm from London, London College, Regent College, London. How do we collaborate? I've seen your work over the time today, but how do we
You mean
connect?
me and you?
Yeah.
That's an easy one.
Very interesting topic.
I have collaborated. I got collaborated inside collaborated. And I love the collaboration. Why? Because I personally know I can't do it all. And most of my work is focusing on SDG1, the eradication of poverty. We're going in the wrong direction. And so I believe at the intersection of technology, entrepreneurship, and education, we can make a difference. So I'm happy to work with you and some of my other collaborators. Thank you.
So thank you very much, Nico. What I wanted to, you had a long framing of, how we interact with machines so that our human and the machine creates some kind of new synthesis. What, do you have a few short examples of that?
Oh, I'll take an example. Okay, so when I saw the work by Batson and I saw the work by Claremont, I was like, we need to get it together. So when I heard Professor Robert Medgar about 3 weeks ago, he did a special salon for a group of people, most of them was on the West Coast, I was there. And I said, when is it available? He said, it's available now. So if you go now to ChatGPT and ask for deep research, you can get in. I went to ChatGPT deep research, and I said, I got these 2 bodies of work. It can process the 2 bodies of work. And I told it what I was thinking. And I said, this is where I think it's happening. And there's got to be some connection. And it was there. We worked for about 2 weeks together, me and deep research. He said I could call him deep. Me and deep. Me and deep. And I said, you know, this presentation is so important to me because it's the essence of what I really believe. I believe if we get more of our students, more of our people across the world, understanding that the technology can leverage us and help us as opposed to resisting it, I believe we can make a difference. I really believe that. And so I didn't just take Robert Clicker, Patrick's word, or however you say it. I actually experimented with myself on this project. All of the text, all of the images you see that don't have photo credits, they are text to image in Midjourney. I don't like ChatGPT for visuals. I mean, I really don't. I mean, their image generator is just not at the level of Midjourney. I like for video into video. And even working with deep research, when deep research could talk about what we should do, he could not post it out. But when I went out to in video, I took our concept, and the video you saw is a merged concept of me and deep research.
Thank you, Professor.